So, you think you had a stressful day at work? A tough performance review maybe? Imagine your boss's mood swings don't just determine the office vibe for the afternoon, but whether you get to keep all of your limbs attached. You're about to find out that your worst day in a cubicle is a luxury vacation compared to a good day in this line of work. We're going to explore a career where the only HR department is a man with an axe, and the severance package is literal. Welcome to your favorite medieval channel, the place you come to feel ridiculously grateful for indoor plumbing and a 401k. Take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you're into this kind of historical self-torture and want to be reminded just how good you have it. It helps the channel, and it validates my decision to talk into a microphone about medieval misery instead of getting a real job. Now for my favorite part, where are you watching from? And what time is it there? I love seeing which part of the world you're joining from. Let me know in the comments, and let's get started. The first thing you're aware of isn't the light, but the smell. It's a complex bouquet of old sweat, damp straw that's seen too many bodies, and the faint, sour aroma of last night's spilled wine. You open your eyes. This isn't your bed. It's a pile of hay in a drafty alcove that you charitably call your room. Your back aches, and a new collection of flea bites across your neck has declared war on your skin. You don't reach for your phone to doom scroll through social media. You don't have one. Instead, you do a mental systems check, a frantic inventory of your own body, just to make sure everything is still attached. Good. That's a win. Viral phrase of the day. Woke up and chose violence? No. You woke up and prayed the king chose mercy. You sit up, the scratchy wool of your party-colored tunic, your work uniform, your pajamas, your entire wardrobe, chafing your skin. It's a walking punchline, a garment designed to scream, "Don't take this person seriously," which is tragically ironic because your life depends on being taken just seriously enough to not be disposable. Your stomach growls, a hollow, pathetic sound. Breakfast is a concept for other people, for people whose value isn't measured in the decibels of a drunken nobleman's laughter. You might get a stale crust of bread later if the kitchen boy is in a good mood, or he might trip you for a laugh. It's a coin toss, really. Every interaction you have is a coin toss. Your morning meeting doesn't involve coffee and quarterly reports. It involves trying to recall the precise shade of purple the king's face turned last night when you joked about his new, very tight-fitting trousers. You have to catalog every royal whim, every noble's insecurity, every visiting dignitary's easily bruised ego. Your brain is a server farm dedicated to storing data on 1,000 different ways you could possibly offend someone powerful enough to have you flogged for fun. You are a walking, talking, juggling HR violation waiting to happen. The paranoia is the real breakfast. It's a constant, bitter meal. You see two guards whispering by a doorway, and your blood runs cold. Are they talking about you? Did someone overhear you muttering about the Queen's terrible singing voice? You practice your smile in a puddle of rainwater. It has to be just right. A perfect blend of cheerful idiocy and non-threatening wit. Too much wit, and you're a threat. Too much idiocy, and you're boring. And boring is just a scenic route to the gallows. This isn't imposter syndrome. This is a highly logical and accurate assessment of your own precarity. Your job is to read the room, except the room is written in a language that changes every 5 minutes, and the penalty for mistranslation is a non-negotiable meeting with a large man in a black hood. You creep out of your hovel, sticking to the shadows. Even though you're supposed to be a vibrant centerpiece of court life, your survival often depends on being invisible until you're summoned. Every corridor is a minefield of social etiquette. You bow to a passing baron, but not too low. That would be mocking. You make eye contact, but not for too long. That would be challenging. He ignores you completely. That's the best case scenario. To be ignored is to be safe for a moment. You see the court chaplain approaching, a man who preaches forgiveness on Sunday and then suggests creative punishments for you on Monday. You duck behind a tapestry that smells like 1,000 years of dust and regret, holding your breath until he passes. The fabric is rough against your cheek, and through a thin spot, you can see the great hall beginning to fill up. It's a swirling vortex of silks, jewels, and casual cruelty. These are your audience, your judges, your potential executioners. They are bored, rich, and have the attention span of a gnat. And you, with your threadbare costume and empty stomach, are expected to be the human equivalent of a viral video. No pressure. The thing is, they don't want to just laugh. They want a spectacle. They want to see you walk a tightrope between genius and humiliation. Your failure is often funnier than your success. They want to see you sweat. They want to see the fear in your eyes when a joke hangs in the air a second too long. That's the real entertainment. It's the thrill of watching someone else dance on the edge of a cliff. The problem with being the king's fool is that you have to be smarter than everyone in the room to survive, but you can never, ever let them know it. You hear the herald's voice boom, not your name, but your title. Bring forth the fool. It's not a request. It's a command, like releasing a dog. You take a deep breath that does nothing to calm your racing heart. Paint that fake, watery smile on your face and prepare to juggle for your life. Your daily performance review is about to begin, and the feedback is brutally direct. The day is young, and you are already exhausted. The concept of quiet quitting is just a fantasy when loudly dying is the alternative. You survive by convincing a predator that you're more amusing as a pet than as a meal. You step into the light, a riot of color and noise, and all you can think about is the gnawing emptiness in your gut and the crushing weight of 1,000 careless eyes. You start to juggle, not with skulls or bread, but with their expectations, their boredom, and your own desperate, pathetic need to see the sun rise tomorrow. The king is watching. He's not smiling yet. That's bad. That's very, very bad. You feel a drop of sweat trace a path down your spine. The air is thick with the smell of roasted meat and entitlement. You toss a ball higher, a little flourish, of the wrist, and catch it behind your back. A smattering of polite, uninterested applause. It's not enough. You're bombing, and this isn't a comedy club where you can just go home and cry into a pizza. The stakes are a little higher. You look at the queen. She's whispering something to the lady-in-waiting beside her, who then stifles a laugh. Was it about you? Of course it was. Everything is about you when you're the designated target. Your mind races, a Rolodex of jokes, puns, and insults. Which one? Which one won't get you sent to the dungeon to practice your material on the rats? It's a high-stakes game of Russian roulette, but with puns instead of bullets. And your so-called wit is just a shield made of paper, and everyone else is holding swords. You remember a joke about a goose. It's a safe one. A bit dated, the medieval equivalent of a dad joke, but it's unlikely to offend. But playing it safe is also a risk. They might just get bored and have you replaced with a monkey. It happened to your predecessor, Yorick. Poor fellow. Great at impressions. Terrible at predicting the queen's reaction to jokes about her favorite horse. You decide to risk it. Not the goose joke. Something bolder. Something that will make them sit up. You clear your throat, your heart hammering against your ribs like a prisoner rattling his cage. "My lords, my ladies," you begin, your voice a little too high, a little too shaky. "Why is our noble king's new decree like a cheap ale?" The hall goes silent. Utterly, terrifyingly silent. You can hear someone chewing from across the room. Oh no. You've done it now. You've crossed a line. You can practically feel the guard's eyes on the back of your neck, measuring you for a coffin. You've managed to screw up your entire life in a single sentence. This is what they mean by a hostile work environment. You see the king's eyebrow begin to twitch, and you know with absolute certainty that your next words will determine whether you sleep in your straw pile tonight or become food for the crows. The punchline you had in mind suddenly feels like, The stupidest combination of words ever assembled in human history. Time stretches, becoming a thick, syrupy substance. Your entire existence narrows to the space between your catastrophically stupid question and the king's twitching eyebrow. Your brain, which only moments ago was a high-speed library of comedic genius, is now just a single, flashing neon sign that says, goodbye. You fantasized about death before, a quick illness, a peaceful end in your sleep, but you never imagined your final moments would be soundtracked by a nobleman chewing a piece of pork too loudly. This is it, the end of the line. Your internal monologue is just a high-pitched scream. You have to say something. The silence itself is an accusation. You open your mouth, and the punchline you concocted feels like ash on your tongue, but it's all you have. Because you stammer, your voice cracking. You force it down an octave, trying to sound witty and not like a lamb being introduced to the mint sauce. Because it gives the common man a terrible headache. But ultimately, makes the crown much, much richer. The words hang in the air, naked and horrifying. You just called the king's new tax law a cheap headache inducer. You've insulted his policy, his people, and his brewing techniques all in one go. You are, without a doubt, the stupidest man alive. You instinctively flinch, preparing for the signal to the guards, the clatter of armored feet, the rough hands dragging you to a place where laughter never reaches. The king's face is unreadable, a stone mask of royal authority. His eyes, small and hard, are fixed on you. And then, the unthinkable happens. The corner of his mouth twitches up. A strange, guttural noise rumbles in his chest, and it erupts into a booming, gargantuan laugh. It's not a polite chuckle. It's a full-throated, teary-eyed, table-pounding explosion of royal amusement. For a terrifying second, you think he's laughing at the sheer audacity of the man he's about to have executed. But then he points at you, gasping for air, and roars, "By the saints, he's right!" The dam breaks. The entire court, which had been holding its collective breath, explodes into a tidal wave of relieved, sycophantic laughter. The sound is deafening. Nobles who were just glaring at you are now slapping their thighs, wiping away fake tears of mirth. You didn't just land a joke. You successfully defused a bomb using only sarcasm and flop sweat. The relief that floods your body is so intense it makes you dizzy. You're not dead. You're a genius. You are the funniest man in the kingdom for the next 5 minutes. This is your life now. A series of near-death experiences punctuated by fleeting moments of hollow victory. Congratulations. You've just won another 24 hours in the game of Don't Get Executed. Your prize is crippling anxiety and the dubious honor of being the king's favorite new toy. The banquet roars back to life. But now, you are its focal point. Your success has made you a target of opportunity. A beefy duke with a face like a fermented crabapple beckons you over. Fool, come here. Tell us the one about the three-legged goat again. You go, of course. You tell the joke. You get a wet laugh and a piece of gristle flicked at your face. Another lord, smelling heavily of wine and entitlement, demands you sing a song about his victory in a recent tourney. You don't know any such song, so you have to invent one on the spot, making sure it's flattering enough to please him, but not so flattering that it insults the other knights at the table who he defeated. This is not a performance. It's a diplomatic mission through a minefield of fragile egos. Your employee benefits are the scraps of food you might be able to catch if they throw them at you. And the retirement plan is a surprisingly swift beheading. You spend the next few hours as a human party favor, bounced between tables of powerful, drunk people. You juggle for them, you dance for them, you absorb their casual insults and pretend they're the height of wit. You are famished, watching them gorge themselves on roasted swans and delicate tarts while your stomach eats itself. You see a platter of cheese, actual, beautiful, glorious cheese, and for a moment you consider a life of crime. But then you Remember, you're a branded entertainer, about as inconspicuous as a pig in a ballroom. Throughout it all, you feel a pair of eyes on you. It's not the king this time. It's his chaplain, the one you dodged this morning. He isn't laughing. He never laughs. He watches you with a look of profound, chilling disapproval, as if your very existence is a sin against God and good taste. He sees your jokes not as humor, but as a symptom of the court's moral decay, and you are the walking, talking disease. That man is more dangerous than the king. The king is a volcano. He erupts without warning, but you can sometimes predict the smoke. The chaplain is like arsenic, slow, patient, and utterly lethal. He doesn't need to shout. He just needs to whisper, in the king's ear at the right moment, a word about blasphemy or disrespect, and your career will be over, permanently. Finally, as the torches burn low and the lords and ladies are being helped to their chambers by weary servants, the king yawns. It's a signal, the party is over. He gives you a final amused glance and waves a dismissive hand. You are free to go. You bow so low your forehead nearly touches your knees, a gesture of pure, unadulterated gratitude for not being dead, and you back away, melting into the shadows you call home. You manage to snatch a half-eaten bread roll and a discarded chicken wing from a plate as the servants clear the tables. You eat it in the corridor, hunched over like a ghoul, savoring every greasy, glorious bite. This is your bonus. This is your reward for a job well done. You make your way back to your straw-filled alcove, your body aching, your mind afraid, not of anxiety and adrenaline. The cheers of the court still ring in your ears, but they sound less like applause and more like the howling of wolves. You were a success tonight, but you know that success just raises the bar for tomorrow. They'll expect more. They'll want bigger, bolder, more dangerous jokes. You're on a treadmill that's speeding up, and you can't get off. You collapse onto your straw, the smell of sweat and fear welcoming you home. You didn't die. Today. That's the best you can hope for. But as you close your eyes, you can't help but think that the chaplain's cold stare promises a much more interesting and much more final performance review in your near future. Surviving today was the easy part. Surviving tomorrow is a whole new problem. You wake up with a jolt, not from a nightmare, but into one. The ghost of yesterday's laughter haunts your straw-filled alcove. Success. You were a success. And the only thing more dangerous than failing in this court is succeeding too well. Yesterday, you were just the fool, a predictable part of the furniture. Today, you are the clever fool. You are a novelty. And you know what happens to novelties once the shine wears off. They get broken or discarded. Your stomach is a cold, hard knot. The gnawing hunger is still there, but it's been joined by a much sharper, more acidic dread. You don't have to wait long. A page. A boy with a face that hasn't yet learned how to sneer properly finds you. The king wants you, he says, his voice dripping with a mixture of awe and contempt. Now, in his private chambers. Your blood doesn't just run cold, it feels like it freezes solid in your veins. The Great Hall is one thing. That's a stage. The king's private chambers are something else entirely. That's the slaughterhouse. No one is summoned there for a casual chat. This is the medieval equivalent of getting a "we need to talk" text from a partner you know you've wronged. As you walk through the castle, you notice the subtle shifts. A few of the nobles who wouldn't have spit on you if you were on fire yesterday now give you a curt, almost imperceptible nod. It's not respect. It's an acknowledgement that you currently have the king's fickle attention, making you a temporary piece on the game board. Others look at you with a new, sharper envy. They see a rival for the king's ear. And in a place like this, envy is just a prettier word for a threat. You feel like a man walking to his own execution, or worse, his own job promotion. The guards at the king's door look straight through you, their faces impassive. The page announces you with a squeak, and the heavy oak door swings open. The sheer sensory shock of the room almost knocks you backward. Your entire life smells of straw, sweat, and despair. This room smells of beeswax, imported incense, and money. So much money. A plush Myrish carpet swallows the sound of your worn, leather shoes. Sunlight streams through a real glass window. A luxury so profound it might as well be magic, illuminating swirling dust motes like tiny golden ghosts. And there he is, the king. He isn't on his throne. He's in a large wooden chair, a servant carefully trimming his beard. And standing beside him, a dark pillar of judgment in a black cassock, is the chaplain. Of course, the one man you'd pay good money to never see again. The two of them together, your boss and your boss's boss, who also happens to be God's boss, apparently. Welcome to the most terrifying meeting of your life, where the agenda is unwritten and synergy means you both agree on the method of your disposal. Ah, the fool, the king booms, his voice jovial. It's the voice he used right before he laughed at your joke, and it does absolutely nothing to comfort you. The man with a tongue sharper than my own razor. The servant with the razor flinches. You offer a weak, wobbly smile and a bow that you hope conveys humility, and not the fact that your knees are about to give out. You were magnificent last night, the king continues. Truly, a wit to rival the finest courts in Christendom. He pauses, and his eyes gleam with a new idea. It's a terrifying sight. An idea in a king's head is like a boulder at the top of a mountain. It's going to roll downhill, and you'd better pray you're not in its path. It occurs to me, he says slowly, that such a wit is wasted on jokes about goats and my trousers. You have a very bad feeling about this. A man like you, the king says, leaning forward. People talk in front of you. They see the bells and the silly hat, and their tongues loosen. They don't see a man. They see furniture. Amusing, talking furniture. He's not wrong. That's exactly how you've survived this long. But he's not saying it as a complaint. He's saying it like he's just discovered a new feature on his favorite tool. I want you to listen, the king says, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Listen to the whispers in the wine cellars, the gossip in the stables. I want to know what my beloved cousins from the north really think of my new alliance. I want to know who is in debt to whom. I want you to be my ears. The room seems to tilt. He is asking you to be a spy, an informant, a snitch. It's a promotion into a job with a 100% mortality rate. If you refuse, you're insubordinate and ungrateful, and your tenure as clever fool will be brutally short. If you accept, you become the most hated man in a castle full of people with swords and very few scruples. If you fail to bring him juicy enough secrets, he'll assume you're incompetent, or even worse, disloyal. You've been promoted from expendable entertainer to expendable espionage asset. The pay is the same. Not dying today. You're trapped. It's the most elegant, brutal checkmate you have ever witnessed. While you're trying to process this, the chaplain speaks for the first time. His voice is smooth, like oil poured over a blade. The Lord God has eyes that see all things, Your Majesty, he says, his gaze fixed on you. But a wise king often requires more humble instruments to see into the dark corners of men's hearts. Be a worthy instrument, fool. The king's trust is a sacred burden. It's a threat wrapped in piety and delivered with a chilling smile. He's telling you that he knows. He's watching. And he's judging not just your performance, but your soul. You feel a profound urge to simply lie down on the expensive carpet and die. It would be so much easier. But you can't. So you do the only thing you can. You bow again, even lower this time. Your Majesty honors me with his trust. You say the words tasting like poison. My ears are yours to command. I am, as always, your humble servant and your fool. The king slaps his knee, delighted. He's gotten what he wants. He dismisses you with a flick of his wrist. You practically crawl out of the room, your mind a screaming vortex of pure panic. Your job description has been updated. You are no longer just a comedian. You are a secret agent for a paranoid tyrant, and your primary antagonist is now your direct supervisor. As you walk back through the castle, the nods and glances from the nobles feel different now. They aren't just looking at the king's temporary favorite. They're looking at a potential spy. Or maybe that's just the paranoia. But is it paranoia when they really are out to get you? Every friendly conversation is now an interrogation. Every shared secret is a potential report. Your entire life was a tightrope walk. Now, the tightrope has been doused in oil and set on fire. The world has not changed, but your eyes have. The castle you walked through yesterday is not the same castle you walk through today. Before, it was a theater of personalities you had to entertain and appease. Now, it's a jungle of potential, assets and threats. Every conversation is a coded message. Every laugh is a possible conspiracy. Every friendly arm around your shoulder feels like a prelude to a knife in the back. You have been given a terrible all-access pass to the backstage of power. You feel like you've accidentally been added to the senior management-only group chat. You're seeing all the terrifying passive-aggressive messages. You know you're not supposed to be there, and you understand that reading them is just as dangerous as ignoring them. The simple, honest terror of performing has been replaced by the complex, gut-twisting terror of espionage. You know you can't wait for secrets to fall into your lap like overripe plums. The king expects a return on his investment, and your body is the collateral. You need to produce. You need to find a thread to pull, something to show for your cursed promotion. You decide to start small, to hunt for rabbits before you go after the wolves that roam the court. Your target, the training yard. It's the one place where men with too much muscle and not enough sense tend to let their guards down, their mouths running as freely as their sweat. Time to do some networking, which, in your case, means trying to overhear a whisper of treason without getting a practice sword embedded in your face. You arrive at the yard, a dusty expanse of churned earth and broken dreams. The air is thick with the clang of steel on steel and the grunts of exertion. You put on your mask. You're the fool. You pull out 3 brightly colored balls and begin to juggle, a pathetic, colorful distraction in a world of gray steel. You make your jokes, aimed at the squires, who are young enough to still have a genuine laugh in them. You are background noise, a harmless fixture, and you drift ever so slowly towards your first targets, Sir Reginald and Sir Geoffrey. They stand near the stables, their practice session over. Sir Reginald, a man whose ancestral lands are famously unproductive, is wiping his brow. Sir Geoffrey, whose arrogance is his most defining feature, is polishing the hilt of his sword. You start accidentally dropping your juggling balls near them, forcing you to stoop and listen in brief, terrified snatches. It's the principle of the thing, Geoffrey, Reginald is saying, his voice low and bitter. Another levy for this phantom campaign in the north? The fields haven't recovered from the last one. He's bleeding us dry for a war he hasn't even declared. Bingo. The word levy buzzes in your ears like a hornet. Criticizing the king's financial planning is a Premier League offense. This isn't just gossip, it's genuine grade A discontent. Geoffrey scoffs, ever the loyalist when it suits him. It's our duty to serve, and to pay. If your coffers are empty, perhaps you should have wagered less on the bay mare last week. An insult wrapped in a reminder. Reginald's face darkens. That was your horse, you smug peacock, and the debt will be paid. A gambling debt, discontent over taxes, a personal rivalry. This is a beautiful little ecosystem of misery, a perfect starter kit for a budding spy. You're so focused on the conversation that you don't realize you've stopped juggling and are just standing there, staring. Jeffrey's head snaps towards you. "What are you looking at, Motley?" he snarls, his hand tightening on his sword. His eyes are cold and suspicious. Panic, white-hot and absolute, sears through you. This is it. You've been caught. Your career in espionage is about to last exactly 10 minutes. You need a distraction. You need to be pathetic, and you need to be it now. You activate your emergency protocol. You let out a surprised yelp, as if a ghost just goosed you, and throw your juggling balls high into the air. Then, with the grace of a falling sack of rocks, you trip over your own feet and plummet face first into a shallow, muddy puddle left by the morning's rain. You come up sputtering, covered in brown sludge, your colorful costume ruined. You shake your head, sending droplets of filthy water everywhere, and give them the most idiotic grin you can muster. "Apologies, my lords," you proclaim. "The ground seemed thirsty. It mistook me for a wineskin." There is a moment of stunned silence, and then Jeffrey lets out a cruel bark of laughter. Reginald cracks a smile. They see you, covered in mud, looking like a drowned rat in a jester's hat, and you are no longer a threat. You are a joke. You are the fool. They laugh at you, not with you, and turn back to their argument, your presence completely forgotten. You lay there in the mud for a moment, the cold seeping into your bones, your heart hammering. Your primary workplace skill is weaponized incompetence. The more useless you appear, the safer you are. You pick yourself up, your body aching, and collect your muddy balls. But inside your head, you are clutching your first precious, terrifying secret. You have it. Sir Reginald is unhappy, in debt, and blames the king. It's a hot coal in your mind. The knowledge is a physical weight. What do you do with it? You run to the king breathless with your discovery? No, that's a rookie mistake. Show up on day one with a major success, and they'll expect you to deliver the same thing every day. The assignments will get harder, the targets more dangerous. You can't afford to be seen as a good spy. You need to be a mediocre spy, one who produces just enough to stay alive, but not enough to be truly valued. You decide to hold on to it. It's the first piece in a collection. You won't go to the king until you have a few more, something you can present as the result of weeks of difficult, bumbling work. You retreat from the yard, the laughter of the squires following you. It sounds different now. It sounds like the noise an animal makes when it doesn't realize it's being watched by a predator. You make your way back to the castle's dark corners, a walking contradiction. You are the fool who knows too much, the jester who has forgotten how to laugh. The weight of your new secret presses down on you, and you realize with a sinking heart that your old life is gone forever. Juggling 4, your dinner was simple. This is a far more complicated way to die. Your victory in the training yard tastes like mud and bile. You've succeeded at your first covert operation, and your reward is a fresh coat of filth and a secret that feels like a tumor growing in your brain. You're trying to find a quiet corner to scrape the drying mud from your tunic when another page finds you. This one is older, with the cold, dead eyes of someone who has seen too much. He doesn't speak. He just jerks his head. A silent summons. You know with a certainty that settles like a stone in your gut that this isn't from the king. This is a call from the other side of the management team. You follow the page through a series of quiet, sun-dappled corridors to a place you rarely venture. The cloister garden. It's an oasis of tranquility in the heart of the chaotic castle. Roses climb the stone walls. A fountain murmurs softly in the center, and the air smells of damp earth and blossoms. It's serene. It's beautiful. And it's the most terrifying place you have ever been. Standing by the fountain, his dark robe seeming to absorb the sunlight around him, is the chaplain. This is his territory. And you've just been invited into the spider's parlor. This is that C-suite level meeting you never wanted. It's the let's have a quick, informal chat that you know will be meticulously documented by HR and used against you in your eventual, inevitable termination. He waits for the page to leave before he speaks, his voice as calm and placid as the water in the fountain. I trust you have been enjoying the king's newfound confidence in you, he begins. It is not a question. It is an accusation. He is a man of enthusiasms. It is my duty to ensure those enthusiasms do not lead the court astray. He's positioning himself as the real power, the adult in the room, and you as the king's dangerous new toy. He takes a step closer, his eyes scanning you, not with the king's volatile curiosity, but with the dispassionate analysis of a butcher inspecting a cut of meat. Tell me, fool, have you proven to be a worthy instrument today? The question hangs in the peaceful air, dripping with menace. This is the test. He wants to know what you know. He's building his own network of information, and he wants you to be his newest node. You are caught in an impossible bind. If you tell him about Sir Reginald's treasonous muttering, you've given your only valuable piece of intelligence. To him, not the king. You become his asset, his creature. He will own you. If you say you found nothing, he'll either believe you're incompetent or, far worse, suspect you're holding out on him. He might even know about Reginald already, and this is purely a test of your loyalty. You are trapped in a nightmare of middle management, where one boss wants you to spy on everyone, and the other boss wants you to spy for him, and your only compensation is the remote possibility of being allowed to breathe for another day. You need to give him something, but you can't give him the real secret. So you deploy the only strategy you have. You weaponize your own perceived stupidity. You put on a look of grave seriousness, your brow furrowed as if you're about to reveal a matter of the highest state importance. Father, you say, your voice a conspiratorial whisper. I have uncovered a conspiracy of the most insidious nature, a plot that strikes at the very heart of this castle's integrity. The chaplain raises a skeptical eyebrow, but he waits. You lean in closer, your voice dropping further. The head cook, you say, your eyes wide with feigned shock. He's been watering down the wine in the servants' hall. By as much as a third, I reckon. The betrayal. The sheer audacity of it. You lean back, looking immensely proud of your detective work. The silence that follows is profound. The chaplain stares at you. His face, a carefully controlled mask of piety, doesn't move. But you can feel the sheer, unadulterated contempt rolling off him in waves. He is looking at you as if you are the single most pathetic organism the Lord has ever allowed to draw breath. It's a gamble, a massive, insane gamble. You just tried to pay your taxes to a dragon using monopoly money. He's disgusted, but he's also too confused to eat you immediately. You've confirmed his deepest suspicion, that you are a complete and utter moron, a fool in fact as well as in name, incapable of understanding the gravity of your new role. And in this terrifying moment, that is the safest thing you can be. He finally speaks, his voice dripping with ice. I see, he says, and the two words are a masterclass in dismissal. You will, of course, keep your keen eye on such matters. He waves a hand, brushing off your great discovery as if it were a fly. Then his expression hardens. However, he says, a more pressing matter requires your attention. A matter of the soul. Oh no. The envoy from Burgundy, the chaplain continues. He arrived this morning. A man of appetites. The king wishes him to be entertained. But I worry for his spiritual well-being in a court with so many temptations. He places a hand on your shoulder. It feels like a block of ice. I want you to befriend him. Stay close to him. See that he does not stray. Be his guide, his companion, his shepherd. He smiles, a chilling, razor-thin line. The king sees you as his ears. I shall see you as his conscience. The message is brutally clear. Your new assignment is to spy on a high-level foreign diplomat. It's not a suggestion. You are to be this man's shadow. And if anything goes wrong, if he gets too drunk, if he speaks to the wrong person, if he offends the king, you will be the one holding the bag. You will be the scapegoat. The convenient, disposable fool who was supposed to be watching him. You leave the garden feeling like you've been hollowed out and filled with ice water. You now have two secret, conflicting missions from two opposing masters. The king wants a wide net of general gossip. The chaplain wants a laser focus on a specific, incredibly dangerous target. You are a double agent with no allegiance, no support, and no hope. You stumble back toward the main keep. Your muddy, ridiculous costume, a perfect reflection of your inner state. A joke that has been dragged through the filth. A vibrant exterior hiding a soul steeped in muck and fear. The weight of the secret about Sir Reginald is now joined by the weight of the chaplain's command. You are no longer on a tightrope. You are being drawn and quartered, and the horses have just started to walk. There is no time to breathe, no time to process. You have been given a new, impossible task, and failure is not an option on your performance review. The chaplain's words cling to you like a damp shroud. You must befriend the Burgundian envoy. You scan the Great Hall, a chaotic sea of people, and you spot him easily. Of course you do. He stands out like a diamond in a bowl of porridge. His name is Monsieur Edouard, and he looks like he was sculpted from arrogance and money. His doublet is a rich, dark velvet that seems to drink the light. His sleeves are puffed and slashed with vibrant silk, and the single jewel on his signet ring is probably worth more than your entire village and the 3 neighboring ones combined. He is observing a massive tapestry on the far wall, a depiction of some forgotten battle, where everyone looks vaguely constipated. Approaching him feels like a suicide mission. This is like being the office intern and being told to go critique the CEO's new yacht. The power differential is not just a gap, it's a canyon. But the chaplain's orders echo in your mind. You have to make contact, so you do what you do best. You improvise, using your own incompetence as a tool. You begin to walk a wide circle around him, pretending to be lost in your own little world, humming a tuneless, idiotic song. Then, as you draw near, you execute your signature move. You stumble, but with a new artistic flair. You lurch forward, arms pinwheeling, and catch your balance by slamming your hand directly onto the ancient, priceless tapestry he is admiring. The whole thing sways violently, dust raining down from its ancient threads. Monsieur Edouard leaps back, his hand instinctively flying to the jeweled dagger at his belt. He looks at you with a level of pure, unadulterated disgust that you have, until now, only seen on the face of the Queen when served cold soup. His eyes scream security, even if his mouth remains a tight, disapproving line. You have his attention. Now for the hard part. Before he can summon a guard to have you thrown in the moat, you launch into your offensive. You ignore his glare, turning to the tapestry with the air of a world-renowned scholar. "Ah, a classic," you declare, your voice full of false authority. A magnificent depiction of the Battle of Glower upon Gloom. But a common mistake, you see. A classic weaver's error. You point a grubby finger at a mythical beast in the corner. The wyvern. They've given it 2 legs, as is standard for a wyvern of the eastern marshes. But the banner in the corner clearly shows the crest of the Baron von Frownypants, whose lands were famously plagued by the northern wyvern. And any fool knows, you say, puffing out your chest, that a northern wyvern has 6 legs and a profound distaste for figs. It completely changes the tactical implications of the battle. You deliver this stream of utter grade A nonsense with the unwavering confidence of a university professor. The envoy just stares at you. His brain, clearly accustomed to the logical, predictable sycophancy of court life, is trying to process what is happening. He is being lectured on cryptozoology by a man in a silly hat who just assaulted a national treasure. Then, the impossible happens. A tiny crack appears in his icy facade. The corner of his mouth twitches. It's not a smile. Not yet, but it's a start. 6 legs? He asks, his voice a rich baritone laced with disbelief. And a distaste for figs? It's what gives them their notoriously sour disposition. You reply sagely, nodding as if sharing a deep, universal truth. He looks at you, then at the tapestry, then back at you. And he lets out a short, sharp bark of a laugh. It's a sound he probably hasn't made in years. You've done it. You've successfully established first contact. Your primary diplomatic tool, being too monumentally stupid to possibly be a threat. He seems to decide you are a local curiosity, a unique form of wildlife. You are the king's fool, I presume, he says. I have heard stories. All of them. True, you say with a deep bow, especially the ones involving a goat and the archbishop's favorite wig. His smile widens. He's intrigued. You have successfully become an object of amusement. Now you just have to stay that way. He asks you questions about the court, about the king, all framed as casual curiosity. You answer with jokes and riddles, playing the part of the guileless idiot, all while your mind is a frantic sponge, soaking up details. The way his eyes flicker towards the guards when he mentions security. The way he dismisses the quality of the wine with a subtle sneer. This is all data, all potential ammunition. After a few minutes of this bizarre verbal dance, he seems to have made a decision. I am hosting a small game of cards in my chambers this evening, he says, his voice casual but his eyes sharp, with a few friends. It will be terribly dull. You must come. Your unique brand of commentary would be a welcome diversion. A jolt of pure terror shoots through you. An invitation to a private card game with a foreign diplomat and his powerful friends. This is both a golden opportunity and a perfectly crafted trap. You can gather more information in one night there than in a month of skulking in corridors. But you'll be in a locked room with wolves, and you're wearing a sheep costume made of bells. You just got an invite to the high-stakes poker game. You don't have a buy-in, you don't know the rules, and if you lose, they might just take your head as a souvenir. There is no way to refuse. My lord, you say with another ridiculous bow. I would be honored to lose my dignity. And perhaps some money I don't have at your table. He nods, satisfied. Excellent. After the evening meal, he dismisses you with a glance and turns back to the tapestry. The brief moment of connection over. You back away, your heart pounding a rhythm of pure panic. You have a new mission. You have to survive a shark tank, armed only with a jester's scepter and a brain that is threatening to melt from the pressure. You flee to your alcove, the only safe space in this entire godforsaken castle, and collapse onto the straw. The weight of it all is crushing. You are spying on this envoy for the chaplain, while also trying to gather general gossip for the king. You are juggling secrets, lies, and multiple high-stakes assignments. You look at your marotte, the carved wooden head on your scepter. Its painted-on smile seems to mock you. Well, marotte, you whisper to the inanimate object, your only friend in the world. At least one of us has an excuse for being a blockhead. What's my excuse? The marotte, of course, says nothing. The silence is your answer. The time between the envoy's invitation and the event itself is a unique form of torture. It's a void filled with pure, uncut dread. You have no preparations to make. You can't select a finer tunic. You only own the one, a patchwork of mockery, that serves as your skin. You can't think of a witty opening line. Your wit is a reactive shield, not a proactive sword. Your only preparation is to sit on your straw pallet, hugging your knees, and trying to reinforce the mental walls that separate you, the terrified man, from the grinning idiot you have to pretend to be. It's the paralyzing anxiety of knowing you have a final exam for a class you never took, and the subject is quantum physics, and the penalty for failure is being eaten by the professor. You present yourself at the envoy's chambers at the appointed hour. A stern-faced servant opens the door and looks down his nose at you before letting you pass. The room is breathtaking. It makes the king's private chambers look like a rustic hunting lodge. Heavy tapestries depicting lush Burgundian vineyards cover the walls. Deep red furs are thrown over every chair, and the air is thick with the honeyed, decadent scent of a dozen beeswax candles. This isn't just a room. It's a statement of power, a declaration that Burgundy is rich and you are not. And then you see the other guests, the players. Your blood turns to slush. There, looking smug and belligerent, is Sir Geoffrey, the arrogant knight who seems to derive a special pleasure from your humiliation. Next to him is a bloated, florid-faced baron whose greed is legendary. He's a man who would tax the air if he could figure out how. And sitting across from them, his face a tight mask of anxiety, is Sir Reginald, the man whose whispered treason is the most dangerous secret you possess. You are in an enclosed space with your target, a man who despises you, and a man you are, actively planning to betray. Welcome to your nightmare blunt rotation, where everyone is puffing on paranoia and passing you the blame. They barely acknowledge your entrance. You are not a guest. You are part of the evening's amenities, like the wine and the candles. Your job is to be invisible until you're needed, and then to be explosively, idiotically visible. You are the court-mandated emotional support animal, and your primary function is to be laughed at. The game begins. They're playing for stakes that would make your head spin. Piles of gold and silver coins rise and fall on the table like miniature kingdoms. The mood is thick with testosterone and veiled aggression. They don't speak of treason. They don't have to. They speak a coded language of power. A poor hand, the Baron grumbles, throwing his cards down. A poor harvest this year. The land is not as productive under the current management. He's not talking about farming. Sir Geoffrey, raking in a pot with a shark-like grin, counters smoothly. One must know how to work the land one is given. Some of us have the king's trust to try new methods. He glances at Sir Reginald, a clear jab at the man's financial woes. You move around the room, refilling their silver goblets from a flagon of wine so dark and rich it stains the cup. You are forbidden to drink it, of course. Your proximity to such luxury is a special kind of cruelty, but it gives you the perfect excuse to listen. You are the servant, the fool, the ghost in the room. And you hear everything. You hear Geoffrey boasting quietly to the Baron about how the captain of the city watch owes him a favor. You hear the Baron complaining about a new shipping tariff. And you see Reginald growing more pale and tense with every coin he loses, mostly to Geoffrey. The rift between them is a gaping wound, and Geoffrey keeps pouring salt in it. Then, the moment you've been dreading. The envoy, Monsieur Edouard, who has been watching everything with the cool, detached air of a scientist observing ants, turns his gaze on you. "Fool," he says, his voice cutting through the chatter. "You are a man of unconventional wisdom. Advise me." Sir Geoffrey bets boldly. Should I call his bluff? The table goes silent. All eyes are on you. It's a multi-layered trap. If you give good advice and Edward wins, you've made an enemy of the influential Sir Geoffrey. If you give bad advice and Edward loses, you've failed your primary mission from the chaplain and angered a powerful foreign diplomat. If you refuse to answer, you are insubordinate. You are utterly, completely trapped. Your brain, fueled by pure terror, goes into overdrive. You need an answer that is not an answer. You need to escape through the emergency exit of absurdity. You put a finger to your temple, feigning deep thought. "An excellent question, my lord. You proclaim. A true conundrum. My grandfather, a fool of great renown, once told me, never bet against a man who is obviously cheating. A collective gasp ripples through the room. Sir Geoffrey's face turns a dangerous shade of purple. He starts to rise from his chair. Before he can speak, you continue, your voice rising in pitch, which Sir Geoffrey is clearly not doing, for he is a knight of impeccable honor and valor, whose skill at cards is second only to his piety and love for small animals. Therefore, you conclude with a flourish, you must bet everything you own on his hand, for his victory is as certain as the fact that the sun envies his radiance. The room is stunned into silence for a second, trying to untangle the knot of your logic. You have accused him, exonerated him, and wildly flattered him all in the space of 10 seconds. You gave no real advice whatsoever. Then, the Baron lets out a choked snort of laughter. Edward's lips curl into a genuine, amused smile. Even Reginald cracks a pained grin. Geoffrey, caught between anger and ridiculous praise, just sinks back into his chair, looking utterly confused. You have survived. Your superpower is tactical absurdity. You can't lose an argument if you're not even in the same reality. The game eventually concludes. Reginald has lost heavily, his face grim. He offers a curt, bitter congratulations to Geoffrey and leaves without a word. The air is thick with his resentment. You have more intel. You have a clearer map of the court's fractures. As you back out of the room, bowing and scraping, Edward gives you a curt nod. It's a sign of approval. You were an amusing diversion. You have passed the test. You stumble out into the corridor, your legs shaking, and lean against the cold stone wall. You survived the Shark Tank. But you know this was just the first time. They will want you back. You have made yourself useful, and being useful is just another way to be trapped. Sleep offers no escape. Your dreams are a chaotic mashup of the night's events. The king's face morphing with the chaplain's, cards turning into skulls, and the endless suffocating laughter of powerful men. You wake up feeling like you've already run a marathon. The exhaustion is bone deep, but you can't rest. In your new, horrific career, a successful night of intelligence gathering is immediately followed by a terrifying morning of reporting. You have two bosses who despise each other, and you have to feed both of them a carefully curated version of the truth. It's like preparing two different meals for two different poisons, knowing that if you mix up the ingredients, you're the one who dies. The question is, who do you report to first? It's a loyalty test with no right answer. You decide to follow the chain of command of immediate threat. The chaplain's order was specific, his menace more personal. You will deal with him first. You find him, as expected, in the scriptorium. The only sounds are the scratching of a monk's quill on parchment and the whisper of turning pages. It's a room that smells of ink, old paper, and judgment. The air is cold and still. The chaplain looks up as you enter, his face betraying no emotion. "Well?" is all he says. It's not a greeting, it's a demand for a status update. You launch into your prepared narrative, version A. You tell him that, as instructed, you have initiated contact with the Burgundian envoy. You describe how you gained his attention through a display of harmless buffoonery and were invited to his private chambers. You frame the entire card game as you fulfilling your duty to be a pious companion and steering the conversation away from vice whenever possible, a task at which you hilariously failed. You are giving your boss a project update that's all style and no substance, the corporate equivalent of a beautifully designed but completely empty box. You describe the other guests in broad strokes. A few knights and a baron, my lord. The usual court peacocks. You carefully, deliberately omit the simmering tensions, the talk of levies and tariffs, the raw animosity between Geoffrey and Reginald. You present the evening as a simple social gathering where you acted the fool and kept an eye on the envoy, who you describe as a man of great reserve and sharp intellect. The chaplain listens, his fingertips steepled. He is not impressed by your insights, but he seems satisfied that you are at least following his direct order. You have put yourself in the snake's proximity. Continue, he says, his voice a dry rustle. His habits are of more interest than his card playing. Note his companions, note his routines, be his shadow. He dismisses you with a wave. You have passed his inspection, for now. He has no idea you just served him a plate of stale bread while hiding a roasted pig under your tunic. Now for the main event. You navigate the castle to the king's solar. You have to wait, of course. A humiliating hour where guards and functionaries look straight through you. Finally, you are granted an audience. The king is breaking his fast, tearing into a piece of bread with gusto. He sees you and grins. "Ah, my little bird, have you brought me a worm?" You bow low and begin your report, version B. This is the real version, the one with all the dirt, but polished and presented for the king's specific palate. You don't present it as spycraft. You frame it as the concerned observations of his most loyal, simple-minded servant. You mention the baron's grumbling about the trade tariffs, not as treason, but as a sad confusion that perhaps a strong word from the throne could clarify. You mention Sir Geoffrey's boast about the city watch, not as a threat, but as a sign of his eager, if perhaps boastful loyalty. And then you deliver the prize. You don't say, "Sir Reginald is a traitor." That's how a fool gets himself killed. Instead, you choose your words with surgical precision. "And poor Sir Reginald, your majesty," you say, your voice full of fake sympathy. "He seems burdened. He lost quite heavily to Sir Geoffrey, and spoke with a heavy heart about the new levies. He worries that lesser men not as loyal as he, might find their spirits strained by such costs." You pause, letting the implication hang in the air. You've done it. You've delivered the poison without ever touching the bottle. You're not a snitch. You're a culture consultant providing actionable feedback on brand loyalty. The king stops chewing. He looks at you, his eyes narrowed in thought. He is not a stupid man. He understands subtext. He understands the value of what you've just given him. Geoffrey is arrogant and has assets that can be used. The Baron is discontent over money. And Reginald, a man from a respected house, is financially vulnerable and resentful. These are levers he can pull. A slow smile spreads across his face. He doesn't offer praise. That would be too obvious, too dangerous for both of you. Instead, he reaches into a pouch at his belt, and with a flick of his wrist, he tosses a coin. It spins in the air, a flash of silver, and you catch it. It's a full silver piece. It's more money than you've held in your hands at one time in your entire life. The coin is heavy. It's cold against your palm. This isn't a gift. It's a payment. It's a contract. You look at the silver, the king's face stamped on its surface, and you feel a profound, soul-crushing despair. You did it. You were good at this. You successfully navigated the labyrinth and brought back a prize, and your reward is to be sent back in, deeper this time. You have fed the beast, and you know with absolute certainty that the beast is now going to be much, much hungrier. You back out of the room, the coin clutched in your fist, its metallic chill a stark reminder of the new, colder hell you've just successfully descended into. The silver coin is a curse in your palm. You retreat to your squalid alcove and stare at it, the king's profile seeming to mock you in the dim light. This single piece of metal is the physical manifestation of your fall from grace, from a simple fool struggling to survive to a paid informant actively engineering the ruin of others. It's your first paycheck from a job you never applied for, a toxic bonus for excelling at betrayal. You can't spend it. A man dressed in rags paying for anything with a whole silver coin would raise 1,000 questions. You can't throw it away. It feels like severing the one thing that proves your value to the king, your only shield against his wrath. So you find a loose stone in the filthy wall of your hovel and slip the coin behind it. You wall up your secret, a cold piece of silver to match the cold place in your soul, where your conscience used to be. Your actions, meant to be secret, begin to send ripples across the court. The king, armed with your intel, starts playing his game. You see him at dinner, making a loud, pointed joke to the Baron about how some men's fortunes are like leaky ships, taking on water faster than they can bail. The Baron turns pale, forcing a laugh that sounds like a death rattle. You see the king gives Sir Geoffrey a new title, Master of the Royal Hunt, a prestigious role that sounds important but cleverly moves him out of the castle for days at a time, away from the city watch he boasted of influencing. The king is pruning his garden with shears you sharpened for him. The paranoia in the castle, a constant low hum, intensifies into a palpable thrum. Conversations quiet when you pass. Nobles eye each other with fresh suspicion. They don't know who the king's little bird is, but they know there is one. You feel their glances on your back like a physical touch. They don't see a spy. They just sense that you, the fool, have somehow become important. And for a man in your position, to be important is to be a target. The most devastating ripple, however, lands directly on Sir Reginald. One afternoon in the Great Hall, the king makes a grand announcement. In his infinite generosity, he is giving the financially struggling Sir Reginald a chance to restore his family's honor. He is to lead a small contingent of men to the northern border to reinforce a remote, notoriously dangerous outpost. It's a mission known to be a meat grinder, a place men are sent to die quietly. The king frames it as a great honor. You see the sequence of emotions on Reginald's face. First, a flicker of stunned hope. Then the slow, dawning, soul-crushing realization that he has just been handed a beautifully wrapped death sentence. And in that moment, your heart plummets into the abyss. This is your fault. Your words, your carefully crafted, self-preserving report, led directly to this. You didn't just report a problem. You handed the king a solution, and that solution was to throw a man's life away. You didn't pull the trigger, but you loaded the gun, polished it, and handed it to the king with a little note that said, "This one will solve your problem." That night, the inevitable happens. You are skulking in a corridor, trying to be invisible, when a figure lurches from the shadows. It's Reginald, reeking of sour wine and despair. He slams you against the wall, his grip not merely angry but desperate. "Fool," he slurs, his face inches from yours. They call you a fool, but you're the only one who sees everything clearly. You see the strings. I see you watching. His eyes are wild, pleading. "He's sending me to die, isn't he? Tell me, am I a dead man? This is your punishment." The man you condemned has come to you, his executioner, seeking absolution or truth. The abstract horror of your actions now has a face, and it's asking you for an answer. Every instinct screams at you to run, to lie, to say anything. But you are trapped. You are the fool. Your mask is your only shield. You look into his desperate, bloodshot eyes and you summon the full, tragic absurdity of your office. You don't offer hope. You don't offer truth. You offer nonsense. "A dead man, good sir?" you ask, your voice a strange, hollow echo. Man is only truly dead when he forgets the punchline. Reginald stares at you, confused. What? What does that mean? "The king told a joke today," you continue, your voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "He stood before the whole court and told a great joke. You, Sir Reginald, are the setup. The long, winding story before the laugh. The only question is, will you be there to hear the punchline?" It is pure, unadulterated gibberish, a word salad of madness and metaphor. It means nothing. It is a verbal smoke bomb designed to confuse and obscure. It works. Reginald's grip loosens. His mind, already clouded by wine and grief, cannot grapple with your insane oracle routine. He stares at you for a moment longer, then shoves you away and stumbles off into the darkness, leaving you alone with the full, crushing weight of what you've done. You've become a master of the corporate non-answer, a purveyor of words with the nutritional value of styrofoam. You slide down the wall, your body trembling. The encounter has broken something inside you. Before, it was a game of survival, a series of abstract moves on a board. Now, you have touched your victim. You have seen the consequences of your survival, written in the terror of another man's eyes. You flee back to your alcove, but it no longer feels like a sanctuary. It feels like a tomb. You press your hand against the cold stone hiding your silver coin, that cursed piece of silver you earned with this man's life. The game is over. You are no longer playing a part. The fool's mask has merged with your face, and underneath it, you are not a fool, nor a spy, nor a jester. You are a monster. You sit in the darkness of your alcove, a ghost haunting the edges of the castle's vibrant life. The ghost of Sir Reginald's face is burned into your mind, a permanent specter of your success. The silver coin you earned with his life feels like it's physically burning a cold spot into the wall where it's hidden. It is a tumor of compressed guilt. You can't continue this. The tightrope walk between the king and the chaplain, the constant soul-shredding paranoia, the weight of lives ruined by your whispers. It's a poison, and you can feel it killing you from the inside out. The fear of a quick death from a guard's blade is nothing compared to the slow, rotting death of your own humanity. You make a decision. It's a terrible, reckless, fool's decision, the only kind you have left. You are going to get yourself fired, not killed. You have to thread the needle perfectly. You need to be fired from the secret job of spy and relegated back to the public job of fool. You have to make yourself utterly, completely useless to the king's secret ambitions. It's an act of spectacular professional self-sabotage, the medieval equivalent of deliberately crashing the company's most important project just to get demoted back to the mailroom, where the only danger is a paper cut. The next day, you get your chance. The king is holding court, basking in the glow of his own perceived brilliance. He has just received a report from the south and is in a magnificent mood. He sees you lurking near a pillar, your face a mask of misery. "Fool!" he booms, a wide, self-satisfied grin on his face. "Come here. Why do you look like you've just been to a funeral? This is a day for celebration. I have dealt with a thorny border issue with great subtlety and firmness." He is talking about Reginald. He is celebrating the man's death. Sentence. This is the moment. The opening. You step forward, into the center of the great hall. The sycophantic laughter dies down as all eyes turn to you. They expect a joke, a dance, a song. You give them a story. "A celebration, Your Majesty?" you ask, your voice strangely clear and steady. "That reminds me of a fable, the fable of the clever monkey and the Lion King." The king leans forward, intrigued. "Once," you begin, your voice carrying through the silent hall, "there was a Lion King who had a monkey. This monkey was a wonderful entertainer, and his silly dances made the lion laugh. But this monkey was also very clever. He was the best in the jungle at finding the sweetest, ripest fruits. One day, the lion, tired of risking his own stomach, declared that the monkey's great talent would no longer be wasted on mere entertainment. From now on, the monkey would be the royal food taster." You pause, letting the court absorb the premise. At first, the monkey was proud, but then he saw the other animals eyeing him with suspicion. He realized that if any of the lion's rivals wanted to poison him, they would poison the fruit. And he, the monkey, would be the first to die. He became terrified. So, from that day forward, the clever monkey used his great talent to bring the lion only the most bitter, sour, and unripe fruits he could find. He brought him berries that made his mouth pucker and mangoes as hard as rocks. You looked directly at the king. The lion was disgusted. "You have lost your talent," he roared. He fired the monkey as his royal food taster. And from then on, the monkey was allowed to do nothing but his silly, stupid and wonderfully safe little dances, while the lion went back to finding his own fruit. You finish your story. A profound, confused silence hangs over the hall. Your fable is so thinly veiled it's practically naked. You have just announced in front of the entire court that you will no longer be his spy. You have submitted your resignation via passive-aggressive performance art. The king's face, which had been open and amused, slowly closes. The smile vanishes. His eyes turn to chips of ice. He understands every single word. You have not only refused his honor, but you have publicly exposed the danger of it, humiliating him by showing his great gift to be a poison chalice. For a long, terrible moment, you think this is the end. You see his knuckles turn white as he grips the arm of his throne, but he can't kill you, not for this. To kill you for telling a story about a monkey would be to admit the story was about him. He is trapped by the very secrecy he demanded. So he does the only thing he can. He destroys you professionally. That, the king says, his voice low and dripping with contempt, was the single worst, most pointless story I have ever had the misfortune of hearing. You are a fool. Your purpose is to make me laugh. You have failed. You are not witty. You are not clever. You are boring. The word hangs in the air, a death sentence of a different kind. Guards, the king commands, his voice like stone. Take this thing to the kitchens. His wit has clearly soured. Let him scrub pots for a week. Perhaps the company of scullery, maids and potato peelings will remind him of his place. 2 guards seize you by the arms. They drag you from the great hall, past the stunned faces of the nobles. It is the ultimate public humiliation. And as they shove you through the doors, towards the noise and steam of the kitchens, a profound, overwhelming sense of relief washes over you. It is the single greatest victory of your life. For the next week, you live in a new kind of hell, a better hell. Your hands are raw from hot water and lye soap. Your back aches from hauling buckets. The head cook screams insults at you that make the king's anger sound like poetry. You are covered in grease and grime, and you are at peace. You are no longer a spy. You are no longer juggling secrets. You are a disgraced fool, a pot scrubber, a nobody. You have successfully engineered your own demotion and achieved the ultimate medieval dream, being too unimportant to kill. You have survived. You are still a fool, and you are still in hell, but at least, for now, it is a hell of your own choosing. So, you've escaped the frying pan of courtly life and landed directly in the freezing holy water of the church. Congratulations. You might think this is a step up. No more paranoid kings, no more psychotic chaplains. Here, there is only God, peace, contemplation. You would be wrong. So very, very wrong. You didn't find God at the monastery of Silent Vale. You found a lifetime subscription to cold, damp misery, and the silence is a lot louder than you think. You're not here because of a divine calling. Let's be clear about that. Spiritual awakenings are for saints and people in storybooks. You are here because you are the 3rd son of a minor lord, whose lands produce more rocks than wheat. Your older brother got the crumbling castle and the title. Your second brother was strapped into a suit of armor and sent off to hopefully win glory or die trying. And you? You were an expense. So, your family gave you to God. It sounds so noble, doesn't it? In reality, they traded you for a tax write-off and a cleaner conscience, offloading you onto the church like a piece of defective furniture. This wasn't a spiritual calling. It was the medieval equivalent of being downsized and outsourced to a branch office in the middle of nowhere. The monastery of Silent Vale is aptly named. It sits in a perpetually damp valley where the sun seems to be allergic to showing its face. The silence is the first thing that gets to you. It's not peaceful. It's a heavy, oppressive blanket that smothers all joy. The only sounds are the mournful clang of the bell calling you to prayer 7 times a day, the whisper of woolen robes on cold stone, and the sound of your own stomach rumbling in protest. The place smells of wet rock, boiling cabbage, and a thin, cloying layer of incense that desperately tries and fails to cover the scent of 50 unwashed men slowly succumbing to despair. Your life is a repeating, joyless cycle. You are woken hours before dawn by the matins bell. The shock of the cold stone floor on your bare feet is your morning coffee. You shuffle into the chapel, a cavern of freezing darkness, and chant Latin prayers you barely understand. Your mind isn't on the Almighty. It's on a detailed fantasy about a roasted chicken. You wonder if you could survive by eating the candles. Probably not. After prayer comes the work. For your first year, your work was a masterclass in humility, which is a nice way of saying it was grunt work designed to break your spirit. You scrubbed floors, you weeded the windswept cabbage patch, you cleaned the latrines. Every day was the same bleak, gray painting. But recently, things changed. The abbot, a man with eyes as cold and gray as the monastery walls, summoned you. He told you that your year of penance was over and your diligence had been noted. You were being given a new sacred duty, a position of great trust. You were to assist Brother Thomas in the scriptorium. You knew, with the certainty of a man who has been fed corporate lies his whole life, that this meant you were being transferred to a job nobody else wanted. You envisioned copying manuscripts until your fingers bled and your eyes gave out. You were wrong again. It was so much worse. The room Brother Thomas leads you to is not the main scriptorium. It's a smaller, secluded workshop at the back of the monastery, the door barred with a heavy wooden plank. The air inside doesn't smell of ink and parchment. It smells of dust, melted wax, and... is that bone dust? Brother Thomas, a portly monk whose face is a roadmap of broken capillaries, gives you a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Welcome, my son," he says, his voice a low rumble. "Welcome to the heart of our holy enterprise, the reliquary." You look around. The room is a scene of bizarre, sacrilegious industry. One monk is in the corner, carefully rubbing dirt and grime onto a freshly cut piece of wood. Another is using a small file to shape what looks suspiciously like a pig's femur. A third is weaving a coarse brown fabric, occasionally snagging it on a nail to give it an aged, worn look. This is not a holy place. This is a factory. And its product is salvation. Welcome to the holiest workshop in the kingdom, where miracles are manufactured and authenticity is entirely optional. Brother Thomas sees the look of stunned comprehension on your face. The faith of the common man is a fragile thing, my boy, he says, patting a wooden crate with a stencil on the side reading, "Bones Assorted Saints Grade B." It requires tangible proof, physical reminders of God's grace. We provide that. We help the faithful feel closer to the divine. He says this with the same tone a merchant would use to describe selling overpriced wool. He leads you to a workbench. On it are dozens of small wooden splinters, a hammer, and a bucket of rusty nails. You realize with a jolt of horror what you're looking at. Splinters from the true cross are our most popular item, Brother Thomas says, matter-of-factly. But we've had a recent request for something more specific. He picks up a long, smooth piece of ash wood. The holy lance, the one that pierced the side of our Lord. He hands you the wood and a rusty nail. Your hand trembles as you take it. This is blasphemy. This is a level of fraud so profound it makes your head spin. You thought you'd be wrestling with inner demons in this monastery. Turns out you're wrestling with how to make a pig's knuckle look like a saint's knuckle. Your first task, Brother Thomas says, his voice now all business. We need another 50 splinters of the Holy Lance by the time the Vespers bell rings. Don't make them too neat. The pilgrims, they appreciate a rustic, authentic look. Adds to the value. He claps you on the shoulder and leaves you standing there, a piece of wood in one hand, a rusty nail in the other. Your grand, sacred duty. You have been promoted from shoveling manure in the garden to manufacturing fake religious artifacts for profit. You look at the tools in your hands and realize that the shocking truth of Silent Veil isn't about demonic possession or secret heresies. It's much, much worse. It's about holy, sanctified, industrial-scale fraud. And you are its newest employee. You stand there for a long moment, the piece of ash wood in one hand and the rusty nail in the other. Your entire life you were told that blasphemy was the surest path to eternal damnation. You pictured it as something grand and dramatic. Cursing. God in a thunderstorm, perhaps. You never imagined it would be so mundane, so industrial. This isn't a passionate act of defiance. This is piecework. You are on the clock for God, or rather, for the cynical machinery that runs this place. Your first splinter is a disaster. You hold the nail to the wood and tap it with a mallet. Instead of a graceful, authentic-looking sliver, a huge, clumsy chunk of wood breaks off. It looks less like a fragment of a holy weapon and more like something you'd find in the bottom of a lumberjack's boot. You look around, terrified someone saw. No one cares. The other monks are lost in their own little worlds of pious fraud. The monk to your left, a thin, twitchy man named Brother Michael, is humming to himself as he polishes what looks like a sheep's knuckle with a grimy rag. He notices your struggle. "Too much force, son," he whispers without looking up. "You're not splitting firewood. You want to persuade the wood, not command it. Make it feel like it wants to be a relic." He winks, a gesture so out of place beneath his dark hood that it's deeply unsettling. "And when you get to the bones," he adds, "a quick boil in onion water and a day buried in the garden gives them a lovely ancient patina. The worms do half the work for you." He goes back to his humming. You realize you are in a room full of masters, artisans of deceit. This is the holiest assembly line in Christendom, powered by cynicism and the fumes from last night's cabbage soup. You try again, tapping gently, flaking off smaller pieces. It's monotonous, soul-crushing work. With every tap, you feel a little piece of your soul chip away with the wood. You are having a crisis of faith, which was deeply inconvenient. Because faith, it turned out, was the product you were now tasked with manufacturing. After an hour, Brother Thomas returns to inspect your progress. He picks up one of your better-looking splinters and examines it like a jeweler inspecting a diamond. "Not bad," he grunts, which from him is high praise. "But they're too similar. They have no story. This one," he says, holding up a slightly bent piece. "This one is good. It looks like it has seen hardship. Remember, a pilgrim isn't just buying a piece of wood. He's buying a piece of the passion. He wants to feel the agony. A little agony in the craftsmanship goes a long way for the profit margin." Brother Thomas's management style was a unique blend of spiritual guidance and cold, hard supply chain logistics. You're not just committing blasphemy, you're committing artisanal, handcrafted, market-tested blasphemy on a deadline. "Good work today," he says, and your heart sinks. You were hoping to be so bad at this that they'd send you back to the cabbage patch. "In fact," he continues, "I'm promoting you. We have a special order, a big one, and I need all hands on deck." He leads you to the center of the room, where a large, heavy crate sits. With a crowbar, he pries it open. Inside, nestled in a bed of straw, is a human skull. It's yellowed with age and missing a few teeth. "The skull of John the Baptist," Brother Thomas announces with the reverence of a showman unveiling his star attraction. Or at least, it will be. We have a very important visitor arriving next week, the Duchess of Avignon. She is fabulously wealthy and tragically gullible. She has already donated a fortune for the privilege of acquiring a truly unique piece for her private chapel. Your mind reels. Splinters are one thing. This is a human skull. "We sourced it from an old plague pit north of here," Brother Thomas says, answering your unasked question. "Perfectly anonymous, wonderfully vintage." He turns to you. Your new job is critical. Every premium relic needs premium packaging. You will be responsible for the titulus, the plaque of authenticity that will be affixed to the reliquary case. He hands you a small, beautiful piece of polished oak and a set of fine carving tools. I need you to inscribe it. In Latin, of course. A cold dread, colder than the monastery stones, washes over you. Your Latin is atrocious. As a third son, your education was an afterthought. You can stumble through the prayers, but writing, carving, you know just enough to know that you know nothing. A misspelled word, a grammatical error, and the whole charade could collapse. What if the Duchess has a real scholar in her entourage? The punishment for this kind of fraud wouldn't be a week scrubbing pots. It would be a public hanging. It's a simple inscription, Brother Thomas says, oblivious to your internal meltdown. He hands you a piece of parchment. On it, in elegant script, are the words, Caput Sancti Ioannis Baptistae, the head of St. John the Baptist. Don't mess it up, boy, he says with a grin that is all teeth. That skull is worth more than this entire monastery. No pressure. He walks away, leaving you alone with your new assignment. You stare at the piece of oak. It feels like the heaviest thing in the world. Your grand career in the church has led you here, to a moment where the entire criminal enterprise of Silent Vale rests on your shaky grasp of a dead language. Congratulations on your promotion. Your new job is faking a plaque for a VIP client, and the penalty for a typo is a slow, painful death. You pick up a carving tool, your hands slick with sweat. Caput. C-A-P-U-T. You think, you hope. The silence of the workshop presses in, and for the first time, you begin to pray. Not for salvation, but that you don't accidentally carve something that gets you all killed. The piece of polished oak on the workbench seems to mock you. It's a perfect, unblemished surface, a silent testament to a quality and value that feels utterly alien in your life of rough-spun wool and splintered benches. And you are about to ruin it. You are about to scar this beautiful thing with your own incompetence. The Latin words on the parchment, Caput Sancti Ioannis Baptistae, swim before your eyes. It's not just a phrase, it's a password to a secret club of educated men, and you are standing at the door with a fake ID. Your entire privileged but useless upbringing flashes before your eyes. While your eldest brother was learning estate management, and your second brother was learning how to swing a sword without falling off his horse, your education was a series of naps in the back of a classroom run by a drunken, disgraced priest, who cared more about the sacramental wine than a third son's Latin declensions. You learned just enough to look vaguely intelligent from a distance. Now, that distance has evaporated, and you are about to be exposed. Panic. A cold and greasy sweat beads on your forehead. This isn't the noble fear of God's wrath. This is the primal, animal terror of the unqualified employee who has been asked to perform brain surgery. You could try to fake it. Just carve the letters as they appear. But you remember a story your father used to tell about a rival baron who commissioned a grand tapestry with the family motto, only for the weaver to misspell virtus as virus. He became the laughingstock of the county. The consequences here would be slightly more severe than laughter. The Duchess of Avignon might be gullible, but her entourage would surely contain a priest or a scholar, someone who would spot a grammatical error in a holy inscription and immediately recognize it as the work of a fraud, not the work of God. In that moment, the entire criminal enterprise of Silent Vale, this magnificent, cynical machine of faith-based capitalism, would come crashing down. And the abbot, a man who exudes the kind of merciless pragmatism usually reserved for executioners, would need someone to blame. You, the new guy, the third son nobody would miss, would be the perfect scapegoat. You realize you have no choice. You have to get help. Not from Brother Thomas. Admitting this weakness to your new manager on day one is unthinkable. You need a book. A Latin primer. The kind of basic text you blissfully ignored as a boy. And the only place to find one is in the monastery's main library. This is a terrible, terrible idea. The reliquary workshop is a secret, its existence known only to the few monks who toil here and the abbot himself. Leaving your post to go sniffing around the library is like an undercover agent asking his target for directions to the police station. It's suicidally conspicuous. You look over at Brother Michael, the bone polisher. He's now meticulously drilling a small hole into a sheep's vertebra, presumably to thread a ribbon through it for some lucky pilgrim. "Brother Michael," you whisper, your voice hoarse. "This inscription, the style, I wish to ensure it is historically appropriate. Where might one find books on ancient calligraphy?" It's a weak lie, but it's the best you can come up with. Michael looks up, his twitchy eyes fixing on you. He sees the panic you're trying to hide. "Calligraphy?" he says, a wry smile playing on his lips. "We don't worry much about calligraphy, boy. We worry about spelling. Remember Brother Philip? Gifted illuminator. Could paint the face of an angel on a thumbnail. But he thought Sanctus was spelled with a K. The abbot reassigned him to a missionary post in the swamps. We ship him a box of Saint's Knuckles every solstice. I doubt he uses them for prayer. The message is delivered with chilling nonchalance. The stakes are clear. Mistakes are not tolerated. They are disappeared. This only deepens your resolve. A risky trip to the library is better than a certain misspelled death. You wait for a moment when Brother Thomas is out of the workshop, likely haggling with the suppliers of their raw materials. Grave robbers is such an ugly term. You mutter something about needing the latrine and slip out the heavy oak door. The corridors of the monastery feel different now. Before, they were just cold and boring. Now they are a maze filled with potential witnesses. Every shuffling monk you pass feels like a security camera. You pull your hood low and walk with a purpose you do not feel, heading for the library. You're committing breaking and entering to learn a dead language in order to commit blasphemy more accurately. Your life has become a very specific, very stupid crime thriller. The library is not the bustling center of knowledge you might imagine. It's a vault. Cold, silent, and smelling of decaying paper and profound neglect. The books, priceless treasures in this illiterate world, are chained to the towering wooden shelves like prisoners. Light struggles to pierce the grimy, slit-like windows, illuminating swirling columns of dust. This is where knowledge comes to die. You frantically scan the shelves. Most are huge, leather-bound Bibles and theological treatises. Useless. You need the children's section. You finally find it in a dark corner, a small collection of educational primers. Your heart leaps. You find a thin volume on Latin grammar. It's chained to the shelf, of course. You can't take it. You have to learn right here, right now. You hunch over the book, your eyes devouring the text. Nouns, verbs, declensions, cases. It's a flood of information you were never equipped to handle. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. Your brain feels like it's being stretched on a rack. You try to focus on the phrase you need. Caput Sancti Ioannis Baptistai, head of St. John the Baptist. Of St. John would be the genitive case. Sanctus becomes sancti. Good. You knew that one. Ioannis becomes Ioannis. Also good. But Baptista? Is it a first declension noun? Does it become Baptisti? Or is it third declension? Baptistus? The difference of a single letter could be the difference between life and death. Suddenly, you hear it. The slow, deliberate shuffle of footsteps approaching the library. Your blood turns to ice. It's a heavy, authoritative sound. It's the abbot. You don't think. You react. You dive behind a massive bookshelf, crouching in the dust-choked darkness, praying you were not seen. The footsteps enter the room, pause, and then continue, receding down another aisle. You stay there for what feels like an eternity, your heart hammering against your ribs, every muscle tensed. It was a near miss, a reminder that you are a trespasser in every sense of the word. You finally summon the courage to peek out. The library is empty again. Your nerve is shot. You've gleaned what you can. You have to go back before you're missed. You sneak back to the workshop, your mind a chaotic soup of half-remembered grammar. You feel less confident now than you did before you left. The library trip only served to highlight the vast ocean of your own ignorance. You sit back down at your workbench. The pristine oak still waits. The tools feel cold and alien in your trembling hands. You've consulted the experts. You've done your research. You've risked your life for a grammar lesson. There are no more excuses. It's time to make the first cut. You take a shaky breath, steady your hand as best you can, and poise the sharp edge of the carving tool over the wood. You're about to carve the first letter of the first word. C, for caput, for catastrophe, for a career in holy crime that is about to be either successfully launched or brutally, fatally terminated. You press down. You press down. The sharp V-gouge bites into the wood, and a perfect, clean curl of oak shaving springs to life. The first stroke of the letter C is done. It's terrifyingly permanent. There is no delete key in the 12th century, no way to undo this. Every mark you make is a final, irrevocable decision. Your hand is slick with sweat, and you have to pause after every single stroke to wipe your palm on your coarse woolen habit, leaving a dark, greasy stain. The silence in the workshop is no longer oppressive, it's judgmental. You feel the imagined weight of the abbot's gaze, the king's justice, God's righteous fury, and worst of all, the smug satisfaction of the drunken priest who failed to teach you Latin properly all those years ago. You work with the slowness of a man defusing a bomb. You carve the curve of the C, then the straight line of the A, then the perilous multi-stroked P. You hold the parchment with the inscription so close to your face that you can smell the iron in the ink. You silently chant the letters to yourself, a new and desperate prayer. C-A-P-U-T. Please let that be right. Please don't let me have remembered it wrong. The process is agonizing. This isn't the fluid, confident work of a master craftsman. It's the hesitant, shaky scratching of a terrified forger. An hour passes, maybe more. Time has ceased to have meaning outside of the space between your tool and the wood. You have completed the first word. Caput. It looks like a word. You feel a tiny, pathetic flicker of pride, which is immediately extinguished by the realization that you have 4 more words and a lifetime of potential mistakes ahead of you. Brother Thomas shuffles over, his sandals slapping on the stone floor. He looms over your shoulder, his cabbage-scented breath warming the back of your neck. This is your first performance review. He squints at your work, his face a mask of intense scrutiny. You hold your breath, expecting the worst. It's too clean, he grunts. You stare at him, uncomprehending. It's clean? Clean, he repeats, tapping the wood with a thick finger. Perfect. The serifs are neat, the lines are straight. It looks like it was carved by a scholar. It looks like it was carved by you. He leans in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. A relic's plaque from the time of the Romans wouldn't be perfect. It would be flawed. It would be human. The man who carved the original would have been a functionary, a soldier, not an artist. He would have been in a hurry, scuff the edges, make one of the letters slightly off-center, give it character, give it a story of its own. You are being instructed, in no uncertain terms, to be a better liar, to add a layer of intentional, calculated imperfection to your already imperfect work. This is a level of cynical artistry that you can barely comprehend. He wants you to expertly fake being a bad craftsman, It's madness. Before you can respond, there is a sharp, authoritative knock on the workshop door. Everyone in the room freezes. Work stops. Brother Michael stills his polishing cloth. Brother Francis, the textile weaver, looks up with the wide, terrified eyes of a cornered rabbit. This door is never knocked upon. Brother Thomas's face darkens. He motions for all of you to be silent, then lumbers to the door. What is it? He barks through the wood, his voice stripped of all false piety. It is Brother Anselm. A calm, clear voice replies from the other side. I am making an inventory of the library. A primer on Latin grammar, a small green volume, has gone missing. From its chain, I am inquiring with all brothers if they have seen it or have need of it. Cold, absolute terror seizes you. Anselm, the head librarian, a man known for two things: his genuinely ferocious piety and his sharp academic mind. He is the last person you would ever want near this workshop. He is the human equivalent of a surprise audit, and you are all frantically trying to hide your spiritual embezzlement. You can feel the blood drain from your face. The missing book. Your missing book. Had he seen you? We are engaged in sacred duties here, brother, Thomas snarls back. We have no time for books. Look elsewhere. The abbot himself has commissioned this inventory, Anselm's calm voice replies, relentless. And this workshop is the only place I have not yet inquired. A moment of your time is all I ask, for the sake of good order. Thomas is trapped. Refusing Anselm would be a direct defiance of the abbot's command, and would only increase suspicion. He glances back at the room, his eyes filled with fury. He gestures wildly at the skull, the bones, the splinters. Hide it. You all move in. A frantic, silent panic, throwing cloths over the more incriminating projects. You shove your half-finished plaque under a pile of rags. Brother Thomas unbars the door and opens it just a crack, blocking the entrance with his considerable bulk. As you can see, Brother Anselm, he says, his voice once again smooth and unctuous, we are merely cleaning and restoring some older blessed items. Dust and decay are enemies of the sacred. Anselm peers past him, his sharp eyes taking in what little he can see of the workshop. His gaze sweeps the room, and for a horrifying second it feels like his eyes lock directly with yours. He can't possibly know, yet you feel utterly exposed. His eyes narrow slightly, taking in the strange smells of wax and chemicals, the unusual collection of tools. He is a man who deals in facts and truth, and this room feels wrong to him. Very well, Brother Thomas, Anselm says finally, though his tone is filled with doubt. But if the book should appear, see that it is returned. A mind that is not disciplined by grammar is a mind open to all sorts of error. The final word is delivered with a pointed emphasis. It is a clear warning. Thomas closes the door and bars it, his face livid. He turns to the room. That man is a menace, he hisses. A self-righteous snooper. From now on, no one leaves this workshop without my direct permission. We are close to the finish line with the Duchess's donation. No one will ruin this for us. The atmosphere in the room has changed. The quiet hum of cynical work has been replaced by a tense, nervous silence. The threat is no longer an abstract concept about a future pilgrimage. It's here, now, walking the halls of the monastery. Brother Anselm is a real, present danger. The fear gives you a strange clarity. You return to your plaque. You now have a new instruction. Make it flawed. You pick up your tool and with a newfound confidence born of terror, you begin carving again. You make the S in Sancti slightly too large. You carve the crossbar of the T in Baptiste at a subtle, almost imperceptible slant. You are not just carving words anymore. You are creating a character. You are building a lie with its own history. You finish the last letter and set the tool down. It is done. Caput Sancti Ioannis Baptistae. It is a masterpiece of fraud. It is believable. beautiful, and a complete and utter fabrication. You hold it in your hands, a testament to your newfound terrible talent. You have solved the immediate problem of the inscription. But as you look at the barred door, you know that your solution has only locked you deeper inside a much larger problem. A pious, intelligent man who suspects that something is rotten in the heart of Silent Vale. You have done it. The plaque is finished. The letters are carved with a believable human imperfection, a testament to your newfound and deeply unsettling talent for lying in Latin. For a single, fleeting moment, you feel a surge of professional pride, the satisfaction of a craftsman who has completed a difficult task. This feeling is immediately crushed by a wave of cold, rational terror. You have created a masterpiece of blasphemy, a key component in a grand criminal conspiracy, and its success has only served to chain you more tightly to this place and these men. Your brief, terrifying trip to the library and the near miss with Brother Anselm have changed the very air in the workshop. The former atmosphere of cynical, monotonous labor has been replaced by a jumpy, nervous energy. Every scrape of a tool sounds like a footstep in the hall. Every gust of wind rattling the window sounds like the door being forced open. The monks, who once worked with the bored detachment of factory lifers, now cast anxious glances at each other and at the heavy, barred door. The threat is no longer an abstract fear of divine judgment. It's the very real, very tangible fear of a smart, pious man who knows something is wrong. Brother Thomas, ever the manager, decides a team meeting is in order. He gathers you, Brother Michael, and the perpetually sighing Brother Francis in the center of the room. He picks up the newly finished skull of John the Baptist, which Michael has aged beautifully with a walnut husk boil and a strategically broken tooth, and holds it up as if it were a royal scepter. "The work is good," he begins, his voice a low growl. "The product is almost ready for market, but our security has been compromised." He glares at each of you in turn, his gaze lingering on you for an extra, uncomfortable second. Brother Anselm is a problem. He is a rat, sniffing around the foundations of our enterprise. He represents an existential threat to this community. He uses the word community, but the way he says it sounds more like criminal conspiracy. "Let me be clear about the stakes," he continues, setting the skull down gently. "The Duchess's donation is not for luxuries. It is not for finer wine or softer habits. The abbot has been negotiating with the baron who holds the charter for this land. The price of his protection has gone up. Without the Duchess's gold, this monastery will be bankrupt within the year. The baron will seize the land, and we will be scattered to the four winds, beggars with no home and no purpose. Anselm's piety is a luxury we cannot afford. It is a direct threat to our survival." He has masterfully reframed their fraud as a desperate act of self-preservation. You aren't just lying to get rich, you're lying to keep a roof over your heads. It's a twisted, but strangely effective piece of corporate rhetoric. He then turns his cold eyes to you. "You," he says. "The plaque is adequate. But you are new. You are unknown. You can move about the monastery without raising the same suspicion as one of us. Your new task is surveillance." Your heart sinks. Of course, you've been promoted again. You will act as my eyes and ears. Your official job is to sweep the corridors, carry water, slop the pigs, I don't care, be useless. But your real job is to watch Brother Anselm. I want to know where he goes, who he speaks to, how long he prays in the chapel. I want to know if he sneezes, and I want to know which direction he was facing when he did it. You are my lookout, do you understand? You have been promoted from artisan forger to counterintelligence. You are a low-level mole tasked with tailing the monastery's one-man internal affairs division. It is, without question, the worst job you have had yet. Your new life begins immediately. Armed with a broom and a profound sense of impending doom, You begin your patrols. Your new job was to spy on the only man in the monastery who was actually doing his job. Following Anselm is a lesson in frustration. He is a creature of quiet, routine, and unnerving perception. You trail him at a distance as he moves through the monastery. He spends hours in the chapel, not dozing in the back like most of the monks, but kneeling on the cold stones, his face etched with a look of genuine, painful devotion that makes you feel deeply uncomfortable. He is praying for the soul of this place while you are spying on him to protect its corruption. After his prayers, his investigation continues. You watch from behind pillars and down long, shadowed hallways as he speaks with other monks. He doesn't ask direct questions. He is far too clever for that. He makes observations. "Brother Matthew," you hear him say to an elderly monk in the garden, "you have been here for 50 years. Do you not think the bells sound sadder than they once did?" He asks the cook about the quality of the flour, the stable master about the health of the horses. He is gathering data, taking the temperature of the entire monastery, searching for the source of the sickness he feels. You have to be constantly on your guard. On one occasion, you are crouched behind a large wine cask in the cellars, watching Anselm inspect the inventory logs. Suddenly, without making a sound, he turns his head and looks directly towards your hiding place. His sharp eyes seem to pierce the gloom. You freeze, pressing yourself against the damp stone, convinced you have been discovered. Your heart feels like it's trying to hammer its way out of your chest. After a long, agonizing moment, he turns back to his logs. It was a random glance, but it serves as a brutal reminder of how out of your depth you are. You are an amateur, and you are tailing a professional. During your surveillance, you uncover something that complicates your view of him. You see him in the library, speaking in hushed tones with a very old, frail monk, one of the few who remembers the monastery's founding. "This place was built on a foundation of prayer and poverty, Anselm," the old monk rasps. "We came here with nothing but the clothes on our backs and faith in our hearts. Now I hear talk of donations and land charters. The abbot speaks more like a merchant than a man of God." Anselm listens intently, his face a mask of sorrowful agreement. "I will not let its light be extinguished, brother," he says quietly. "I will find the source of this shadow." You were gathering intelligence on the investigator who was gathering intelligence on your criminal conspiracy. It was a nesting doll of medieval paranoia. You realize with a sinking feeling that Anselm is not just a snooper. He is the hero of this story. A genuinely good man trying to save the soul of his home from the cynical rot that has infested it. And your job is to help the rot win. Late in the day, you return to the workshop to deliver your report. You tell Brother Thomas everything. Anselm's long prayers, his subtle questioning, his meticulous nature. Thomas listens, his face growing darker with each word. "He is more dangerous than I thought," he mutters. "He is looking for proof. We must make certain he does not find it." He turns to you, his eyes hard. "The Duchess arrives in 2 days. The timeline has moved up. We must be ready. Your job has just become much more important. Stick to him like his own shadow. I want him to feel our eyes on him. Let him know he is being watched. A little paranoia might slow him down. It's a new, terrifying strategy. You are no longer just a passive observer. You are to become an active deterrent, a ghostly presence meant to intimidate the one good man in this entire God-forsaken valley. You leave the workshop, the weight of your conflicting duties pressing down on you. You are an agent of corruption, tasked with haunting a man of faith. The finish line is in sight, but you are running in the wrong direction, and the man chasing you might just be an angel. Your life has taken another turn for the absurd. You are no longer a forger, an artisan of lies. You are now an instrument of intimidation, a ghostly presence meant to haunt the one man in this monastery who actually believes in ghosts. Brother, Thomas's instructions were clear. Make Anselm feel watched. Make him paranoid. Let the righteous man know that shadows have eyes. Your first opportunity comes during morning prayers. The chapel is dark and freezing, the air thick with the scent of old stone and incense. Brother Anselm is in his usual spot, kneeling ramrod straight on the unforgiving stone floor, a solitary beacon of genuine piety in a sea of mumbling, half-asleep monks. In the past, you would have hidden in the back, trying to become one with the shadows. Today, you do the opposite. You walk, your sandals making a soft but deliberate shuffling sound, to the pew directly behind him. You don't kneel, you don't pray, you just sit, your eyes fixed on the back of his hooded robe. The act of doing nothing becomes an act of aggression. You can feel the intensity of your stare boring into him. The air around you thickens. He must feel it. After a minute that stretches into an eternity, you see the muscles in his shoulders tense. He is aware. When the service ends and the monks begin to file out, you remain seated, letting him pass. Then you rise and follow him, keeping a distance of exactly 20 paces, close enough to be seen, far enough to be deniable. He knows you are there. You see it in the rigid set of his shoulders, the slight quickening of his pace. Later, you find him in the cloister garden, seeking a moment of peace with a book. Under the guise of your new duties, you are tasked with weeding a small, pathetic patch of herbs nearby. You perform your task with a calculated, infuriating incompetence. You drop your trowel. You sigh loudly. You mutter to yourself. You are a constant, low-level disturbance. A persistent fly buzzing at the edge of his contemplative silence. He endures it for almost an hour, his focus on his book unwavering. But you can see the tight grip he has on the leather binding, his knuckles white. Finally, he can take it no more. He closes his book with a soft snap and turns his piercing eyes on you. "Brother," he says, his voice calm but laced with steel. "Is there some service I may render you? You seem to have a great interest in my affairs today." The confrontation. It's here. Your mind races. Accusation will be met with denial. Anger will be met with confusion. You need a defense so absurd, so cloying, that it is impossible to argue with. You drop your trowel, and your face transforms into a mask of beatific, idiotic adoration. "Oh, Brother Anselm," you gush, your voice a high-pitched whine of fake sincerity. You clasp your hands together like a starstruck maiden. "Forgive my impertinence. It is just your piety. It is a legend in this monastery. I am but a poor, wretched sinner, a third son given to God, with a soul as barren as a salt flat. I thought, if I could simply remain in your presence, near the warmth of your devotion, perhaps a sliver of your holiness might grace my own. Dark spirit, I am trying to learn from the Master." You stare at him with wide, worshipful eyes, the picture of a pathetic, devotional simpleton. Anselm is struck completely off balance. He was prepared for a confrontation with a spy, a skulking agent of the abbot. He was not prepared for a sycophantic, hero-worshipping stalker. He can't rebuke you. How can he possibly reprimand a brother for wanting to be more pious? To do so would be an act of profound spiritual arrogance. You've weaponized piety. Your new defense mechanism was to be so aggressively devout that it became a threat. He looks at you, his face a mixture of disgust, suspicion, and deep, profound weariness. "The path to God is a solitary one, brother," he says quietly, a gentle but firm dismissal. "I recommend you spend more time in prayer, and less time weeding." He turns and walks away, his serene retreat thoroughly ruined. You have won the battle, but the victory feels slimy and cheap. You report your progress to Brother Thomas. He is delighted. Brilliant, he chuckles, a nasty rumbling sound. Turn his own piety against him. Keep it up. By the time the Duchess arrives, he'll be too busy avoiding his own shadow to notice ours. While you are engaged in this campaign of psychological attrition, the workshop is a hive of activity. The final touches are being put on the grand deception. You watch as Brother Michael uses a fine silver wire to mend the historically accurate crack he made in the skull. He's grumbling about the difficulty of matching the patina. Brother Francis is lining a lavish, custom-built wooden crate with deep purple silk, which he has artificially faded with a weak solution of lye, and aged with carefully scattered drops of candle wax to simulate centuries of devotional wear. They are not just forgers. They are artists, set designers, and storytellers, building an entire history for an object whose only story is that it was dug up from a pit of plague victims. The tension is palpable. Every monk is on edge. This single transaction, this one lie, has the weight of their entire world riding on it. The next evening, while performing your duties of sweeping the corridor outside the abbot's private study, you hear raised voices. It's the abbot and Brother Thomas. Your blood runs cold. You press your ear to the heavy oak door. Absolutely certain? The abbot is saying, his voice tight with panic. Her letter was explicit, Thomas replies, his usual gruff, confidence gone, replaced by a raw, nervous energy. She praises our monastery's unimpeachable reputation and says she is bringing a guest to share in the blessing. A pause. She is bringing Henri of Poitiers, the scholar from the University of Paris. The name means nothing to you, but the abbot lets out a low groan. Henri of Poitiers, the man who exposed the tears of Saint Peter at Chartres as nothing more than polished river stones? The man who proved the dragon's tooth of St. George was in fact the molar of a pig? The very same, Thomas confirms grimly. A bombshell has just been dropped on their entire operation. They are about to have their masterpiece of fraud, the culmination of all their lies and blasphemy, inspected by the medieval world's foremost authority on exposing fakes. The Duchess wasn't just bringing her wallet, she was bringing a human lie detector. All their work, Michael's carefully aged skull, Francis's bespoke pre-distressed silk, your own plaque with its intentionally flawed but hopefully not fatally flawed Latin, was about to be placed under the microscope of a genius. The abbot's voice drops to a furious, terrified whisper. If he finds fault, if he even raises an eyebrow, we are ruined. The Duchess will not only demand her donation back, she will decry us as frauds to every noble house in Christendom. We will be excommunicated, hanged. Brother Thomas emerges from the study minutes later, his face pale and slick with sweat. He sees you, the broom still in your hand, and grabs your arm, pulling you into a nearby alcove. His grip is like iron. "You heard?" he hisses. You nod, too terrified to speak. "Forget Anselm," he says, his voice a low, frantic whisper. "He is a nuisance. This is a cataclysm. The Duchess arrives tomorrow. We have less than a day. Your mission has changed. I need to know everything about this Henri of Poitiers. Find the couriers who brought the letter. Talk to the stable hands. Does he have vices? Is he arrogant? Does he have a weakness? I need something, anything we can use against him." Your world pivots once again. You are no longer haunting a monk. You are now tasked with performing emergency opposition research on a world-class scholar with a reputation for eating frauds like you for breakfast. You have gone from forger to spy to psychological weapon, and now to intelligence operative, all in the space of a few days. Just when you were certain the stakes could not possibly get any higher, they have built a tower on top of them and set it on fire. Your mind is a whirlwind of pure terror. There is no time for stealth or subtlety. You abandon your pretense of sweeping and bolt towards the only place that interacts with the outside world, the stables. Your mind is a whirlwind of pure terror. There is no time for stealth or subtlety. You abandon your pretense of sweeping and bolt towards the only place that interacts with the outside world, the stables. The courier who delivered the Duchess's letter is preparing to leave. You have one chance. You approach him, not as a monk, but as a conspirator, a fellow servant. You offer him a hunk of bread you'd saved and launch into a bitter complaint about the abbot. The disgruntled man, finding a kindred spirit, lets his guard down. The Duchess is bringing that scholar, Henri of Poitiers, you say casually. A great man of God, I assume? The courier snorts. A great man of ego, more like. I've seen him at court. The man doesn't just want to be right. He needs everyone in the room to know he's right. He loves a stage. That's it. The weakness. It's not a vice. It's a personality trait. His genius is inextricably linked to his vanity. Armed with this sliver of hope, you race back to the workshop and relay the information to Brother Thomas. As you speak, you see the fear drain from Thomas's face, replaced by a slow reptilian smile. His mind, honed by years of cynical scheming, sees the opening. Arrogance, he muses. Perfect. We will not try to fool him. We will let him fool himself. He explains the new audacious plan. They will feed the wolf an easy kill to make him complacent. He rummages through your pathetic pile of early forgeries and pulls out one of your clumsiest splinters of the Holy Lance. Tomorrow, he commands, pressing the splinter into your hand. When they tour the chapel, you will drop this. Let him find it. Let him have his glorious moment of discovery. The next morning is a blur of dread. The Duchess and her entourage arrive. She, a frail woman lost in pious awe. He, a hawk in scholar's robes, his sharp eyes missing nothing. The abbot begins the tour, his voice a river of false humility. You take your position near the chapel, broom in hand, the splinter tucked into your robe. As they approach, your heart hammers against your ribs. Now. You stumble, letting the splinter clatter onto the stone floor directly in Henri's path. Henri stops. One moment, he commands. He plucks the splinter from the floor. The abbot feigns shock. Henri holds the wood aloft, a triumphant smirk spreading across his face. Abbot, he proclaims for all to hear. This is a pathetic forgery. The tool marks are wrong. The wood is common ash. A child's attempt at deception. He basks in the Duchess's gasp and the abbot's mortified apologies. He has proven his genius. The easy kill has been made. With his ego sated and his critical eye satisfied, the party proceeds to the workshop for the main event, the unveiling of the skull. It is presented in its magnificent reliquary. Your plaque, with its carefully crafted flaws, gleams in the candlelight. Henri, still radiating smug satisfaction from his recent triumph, gives the masterpiece a cursory glance. He is looking for the same amateur mistakes he found before, but there are none. The work is too good. Your plaque, with its subtle imperfections, reads not as a forgery, but as a genuine piece of rustic, ancient craftsmanship. He circles the crate once, gives a sagacious nod, and delivers his final verdict. Extraordinary, he declares. The patina, the cranial structure, the titulus, it all speaks to its authenticity. Your Grace, you have acquired a true treasure of the faith. The Duchess weeps with joy. The donation is secured. The plan, in all its insane glory, has worked. That evening, there is a quiet, euphoric mood in the workshop. Brother Thomas, his face glowing with success, presses a heavy pouch into your hand. It clinks with the sound of 5 silver coins. You did it, boy, he says, his voice thick with admiration. You saved us all. You are a true artist of the veil. You are a hero, a success, an essential valued member of this criminal enterprise. You have everything you never knew you wanted. As you walk back to your cell, the coin's a heavy, cold weight in your pouch. You see a lone figure standing in the shadows at the end of the long corridor. It is Brother Anselm. He is not moving. He is just watching you. His face is not angry, but etched with a deep, weary sorrow. He doesn't have proof. He doesn't know the details. But his eyes tell you that he knows you. He knows you are a part of the sickness he is trying to cure. You clutch the silver, the price of your success, the down payment on your soul. You are safe from poverty, safe from being a disposable third son. You have won. But as you look at the righteous, unwavering gaze of the only good man in the monastery, you realize you are more trapped than ever before. You are no longer just a resident of this prison. You are now one of its most trusted guards, and the cell door has just been locked from the inside.